In today's fast-paced, hyper-connected, and performance-driven world, more and more people are finding themselves stuck in cycles of stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. Mental health disorders are no longer just rare anomalies. They've become alarmingly common. According to the World Health Organization, depression is one of the leading causes of disability worldwide, and anxiety affects hundreds of millions of people annually. Even those who do not suffer from a diagnosed mental illness often struggle with feelings of emptiness, purposelessness, and a persistent fear of missing out. We are constantly bombarded with information, comparison, and unrealistic standards of success and happiness. Social media has created curated versions of reality, where everyone else seems to be doing better, living happier, and achieving more, all while we battle our own internal chaos. There is a disconnect between our external lives and our internal states. We chase money, fame, validation, and external achievements, believing they will fill the void inside us. But as soon as one goal is achieved, the satisfaction is fleeting, and a new target replaces the old one. This hedonic treadmill keeps us running, exhausted and unsatisfied, toward a mirage of lasting fulfillment. We're also constantly seeking control. We try to control our environment, our future, and even the behavior of others. But life is inherently uncertain. The pandemic reminded the world just how fragile and unpredictable existence can be. Jobs can disappear overnight, loved ones can be lost, and plans can crumble with a single event. The gap between our expectations and reality leads to suffering. We resist what is because it doesn't match what we wanted it to be. And yet, we keep resisting, believing that if we just try harder, life will finally bend to our will. In the midst of this modern psychological chaos, many turn to therapy, mindfulness, medication, or motivational books. And while these tools can be incredibly helpful, many still feel that something deeper is missing, a foundational shift in perspective that can anchor them regardless of external circumstances. That is where philosophy, and more specifically, Stoicism, enters the picture. Ancient yet timeless, rational yet deeply soulful, and in the modern interpretation of Massimo Pigliucci, Stoicism offers not just a set of ideas, but a roadmap to psychological liberation. Massimo Pigliucci, a philosopher and professor with backgrounds in both science and the humanities, believes that philosophy is not just an academic discipline, but a way of life. In his work, particularly in his book, How to Be a Stoic, he reintroduces Stoicism not as an outdated, rigid doctrine, but it is a deeply practical, flexible, and empowering system for navigating modern challenges. In fact, Stoicism's resurgence in popular culture through books, podcasts, apps, and even therapy proves that its ancient principles resonate deeply with today's crises of meaning, identity, and mental well-being. At its core, Stoicism is about clarity. It begins with a simple but profound insight. We should focus only on what is within our control and let go of what is not. This sounds almost too basic to be revolutionary, but it is in this very distinction that Stoicism finds its liberating power. As Pigliucci often emphasizes, much of our emotional suffering stems not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them, especially when we try to change what cannot be changed. Think about how much energy is wasted worrying about the past, fearing the future, or trying to manipulate outcomes in people that are ultimately beyond our grasp. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, whose teachings Pigliucci draws on, would say this is the essence of human bondage, being enslaved by our desires and aversions, trapped in a tug of war with reality. But there's a different way to live, a way rooted in reason, virtue, and emotional resilience. For the Stoics, happiness, or more accurately, eudaimonia, meaning human flourishing, doesn't come from pleasure, possessions, or perfect outcomes. It comes from living in harmony with nature and reason, by being the best version of ourselves, regardless of what happens around us. Pigliucci helps modern readers understand that Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions or becoming indifferent. It's about cultivating the right kind of emotional responses, ones aligned with reason and virtue. Anger, jealousy, fear, and frustration don't have to control us. We can pause, reflect, and choose our responses. We can begin to live with intention rather than reaction. This is radical. It means we're not helpless victims of the world's chaos. We're not puppets to our emotions. We are capable of inner freedom, no matter the outer circumstances. Central to Stoicism, and frequently highlighted in Pigliucci's teachings, is what is known as the dichotomy of control. It's the idea that life is made up of two kinds of things, those that are within our control and those that are not. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." This deceptively simple concept can serve as a compass for navigating life's storms. What is within our control? Our thoughts, our beliefs, our judgments, our intentions, and our actions. What is outside of our control? Just about everything else. Other people's opinions, the weather, our health to some extent, traffic, global events, and the ultimate outcomes of our efforts. Pigliucci emphasizes that making this distinction and truly accepting it can radically shift our experience of life. Most of our suffering comes from treating external, uncontrollable things as if they were up to us. When we anchor our happiness in promotion, praise, romance, or success, we become vulnerable to anxiety, frustration, and despair. But if we root our well-being in our own character and decisions, things always within our control, we become unshakable. This doesn't mean we stop caring about outcomes or become passive. Quite the opposite. Stoicism teaches us to act with excellence, to pursue goals with integrity and discipline, but to detach from the results. In other words, we do our best and then let go. We focus on the effort, not the outcome. This approach eliminates much of the fear of failure because we no longer tie our worth to winning or losing, but to how we play the game. Think of the peace this brings. Imagine facing a difficult conversation, a major exam, or a job interview. Under the Stoic mindset, you would prepare thoroughly, act honestly and bravely, and then accept whatever happens with grace. Whether you succeed or fail externally, you succeed internally, because you stayed true to your values. Pigliucci also points out how this idea ties into modern therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which shares Stoic roots. In CBT, patients learn to identify distorted thinking, challenge irrational beliefs, and take control of their responses, principles nearly identical to Stoic training. So in a world where much is uncertain and anxiety looms large, the dichotomy of control gives us something solid to stand on. It reminds us that while we may not control the storm, we can always control how we sail. Once we've understood that some things are within our control and others are not, Stoicism urges us to focus exclusively on what truly matters: virtue. For the Stoics, and for Massimo Pigliucci, virtue isn't an abstract ideal, but the only true good. Everything else, money, health, fame, even life itself, is considered an indifferent. It can be preferred or dispreferred, but it doesn't determine whether we're living well or not. What does? Acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These four cardinal virtues are not moral decorations. They are the foundations of a flourishing life. Wisdom means using reason and judgment to navigate life. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act rightly in spite of it. Justice involves fairness, integrity, and the commitment to treat others with dignity. And temperance is self-control, moderation, the refusal to be enslaved by passions or impulses. Pigliucci repeatedly stresses that the Stoic life is not passive or self-centered. It's not about sitting in your room and feeling calm while the world burns. Rather, it's about engaging with the world ethically and purposefully. The Stoic sage is someone who stands for justice, who speaks truthfully, who acts with discipline, and who doesn't lose their moral compass regardless of the surrounding chaos. This reframing of success is especially powerful in a culture obsessed with external achievements. In the modern world, success is often measured by wealth, status, or recognition. But the Stoic perspective asks a deeper question. Are you becoming a better human being? Are you living according to your values? Pigliucci encourages us to practice virtue daily, not as perfection, but as progression. No one is born virtuous. It takes effort, reflection, and sometimes failure. But unlike external success, which depends on luck and circumstances, virtue is always within reach because it's about our own choices. Every situation, no matter how difficult or unfair, becomes an opportunity to exercise our character. This moral clarity liberates us. We're no longer at the mercy of outcomes. We begin to define success internally. Not did I win, but did I act with integrity? Not did they approve of me, but was I just and honest? And with that shift, we stop living for validation and start living for meaning. One of the key lessons Massimo Pigliucci draws from Stoicism is that philosophy must be practiced daily, just like physical training. You wouldn't expect to stay healthy by going to the gym once a month. So why would you expect peace of mind or ethical strength without training the mind and soul every day? This is where Stoicism becomes a living practice. It's not just something you read about, it's something you do. The Stoics used a variety of mental exercises, many of which Pigliucci modernizes and recommends. These include morning reflections, starting your day by asking, what kind of person do I want to be today? What challenges might I face, and how can I meet them with virtue? Negative visualization, imagining the loss of what you value, a technique known as premeditatio malorum. Not to be pessimistic, but to build appreciation and resilience. By imagining that things might go wrong, you prepare emotionally and deepen your gratitude for the present. Evening review, looking back on the day and asking, what did I do well? Where did I fail? What can I do better tomorrow? This isn't self-criticism, but self-accountability. Journaling, writing out your thoughts, struggles, victories, and intentions. This allows you to track your ethical development and clarify your priorities. Pigliucci often compares this to a kind of mental hygiene, a way of keeping the mind orderly, focused, and emotionally grounded. We clean our bodies every day. Why not our minds? Importantly, these practices are not about chasing perfection. Stoicism accepts that we will fall short. What matters is progress. As Seneca wrote, while we teach, we learn. The goal is to close the gap, little by little, between who we are and who we strive to become. Pigliucci is also careful to highlight that Stoic practice is compatible with modern life. You don't have to live like a monk or retreat to a mountain. You can be a Stoic at work, in your family, while commuting, during conflict. Every moment offers an ethical choice. Every challenge is a training ground for virtue. In cultivating this inner discipline, we begin to feel stronger, more anchored. External chaos becomes less threatening because our center is within us. We start responding instead of reacting. We become more patient, more deliberate, more alive. One of the most attractive features of Stoicism, and one that Pigliucci powerfully develops, is its ability to build emotional resilience. In a world where people are easily offended, triggered, or emotionally overwhelmed, Stoicism teaches us to reclaim our inner strength. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means understanding them, managing them, and transforming them. Stoicism teaches that emotions come from our judgments. If we think something bad has happened to us, we suffer. But if we reframe it, we regain control. Imagine losing a job. A common response might be, "This is terrible. My life is over. I'm a failure." The Stoic perspective would ask, is it really terrible? Or is it an opportunity to grow, to reflect, to redirect your path? The situation may be outside your control, but your response is not. And it's your response that determines your experience. Pigliucci connects this to modern cognitive science. Studies show that people who can regulate their emotions, who pause, reframe, and respond thoughtfully, are more resilient, healthier, and more successful in relationships and careers. Stoicism offers this skill set. It teaches emotional detachment, not coldness, but freedom from destructive reactions. For example, Stoics learn not to take offense easily. If someone insults you, Epictetus would say, you are disturbed not by the insult, but by your opinion of it. If you don't value the insult, it loses power. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means choosing your response and preserving your dignity. Resilience also means enduring hardship without collapsing. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, ruled during plagues, wars, and betrayal, yet his meditations reveal profound calm and focus. Pigliucci helps us see that this isn't superhuman, it's a trainable mindset. In building this resilience, we don't become detached robots. We become emotionally intelligent humans, aware of our triggers, responsible for our choices, incapable of deep compassion without being consumed by pain. The final gift of Stoicism, and perhaps its most profound, is the way it teaches us to live with purpose and face death with peace. In a culture that avoids the topic of mortality, Stoicism brings it to the center, not to frighten us, but to wake us up. Memento mori, remember you will die, was a core Stoic practice. For Pigliucci, this doesn't mean being morbid. It means living fully, consciously, without delay. It means understanding that life is short and unpredictable, so we should waste no time on pettiness, fear, or regret. Death, the Stoics say, is a not to be feared. It is a natural part of existence, a return to the same state we were in before we were born. What matters is not how long we live, but how well. Did we live according to virtue? Did we love, serve, grow, reflect, create? If so, we can die with tranquility. This awareness brings urgency and clarity. We stop procrastinating on our values. We stop postponing love, kindness, and courage. We begin to live each day as a complete life, grateful, awake, purposeful. Pigliucci urges us to embrace this philosophical attitude toward death, not just as comfort at the end, but as motivation now. If today were your last, how would you speak to your loved ones? What would you create? What would you stop fearing? This shift is transformative. We begin to live not in fear, but in freedom, not clinging, but giving, not wandering, but with direction. And when our time does come, we'll be ready, not because we avoided life, but because we lived it fully, ethically, and with open eyes.